All right, here we go again. Hopefully the audio is better this time. Welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Christina. I am a book hoarder and I have a lot of books on my TBR shelf, and I've pretty much put myself on a book buying ban, and pretty much have banned myself from going to the library until I've finished off this physical TBR that I have. So if you haven't checked out episode 1, hi, hello, please check that out if you are listening, which I'm surprised that I have people listening to this, which I'm excited. I'm very happy to be able to collaborate, and I hope you guys found the Discord channel if you are interested in that. But today's episode, I figured I would dive into some of the books that have been staring at my shelf at me the longest. While I went through this huge growth of purchasing books and, like watching BookTube and the book talk community, I realized that there were a lot of books that really got kind of shoved onto my shelf, and I just kept getting distracted with new stuff and getting new books. And some of these books, I'm really surprised it took me so long to read. A lot of them, well, not a lot of them. I mean, some of them definitely have been talked about a lot, within the book community. But there are others that I don't really hear too much about them. So this is going to be a nice mix. There were some books that I did read, and I definitely would never read them again. One of them's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but we'll see how this goes. So this episode is going to be based around the books that I've had lingering the longest on my shelf. So one of the popular titles that everyone talks about is the ACOTAR series, which is, for those that don't know, I had actually looked this up when I first got introduced to this. It's called A Court of Thorns and Roses. Everyone kept claiming that it was this Beauty and the Beast retelling, and, it's fairies, and, everyone just talked about it. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to read this because everyone and their mother is reading this series. And my friend, Kristen, she kept peer pressuring me to read this series. And now, along this journey, I've gotten to a Court of Silver in Flames or something. I'm like a terrible book talk person, because I can't even get the titles straight. Whatever the Silver Court one is, I'm on that one. So, but I have to say, I am shocked that I'm actually interested in it, because, I always thought that, many, kind of attract to this genre just because of the smut or the romance part of it. And I am not a romance girly, to say the least. I personally look, when it comes to fantasy books, I personally look at the world building, the politics, the fighting, the angst, between the different races. And I am very much a J.R.R. Tolkien girl. Recently I've been introduced to Brandon Sanderson, Robert Jordan, I believe his last name is, whoever does the Wheel of Time series. I personally like that kind of fantasy. This newfound, whole thing with romantasy, I got, actually in a rant, with one of my coworkers, about it, and I just, I feel like part of it, people just focus on, the relationships with the characters, and that's great, that's awesome, but, for us diehard, fantasy readers that have been within this genre for decades, we don't care about the relationships. At least I don't care if so and so loves this and so loves that, and this one's jealous because the other one's in love, or whatever. But you know I personally, like, in a fantasy, I want to know more about the world, the magic system, the type of weaponry that they're using. Like, I am very much like, when it comes to even video games, like, I am a role-playing game girly, if that's what we call that specifics. I don't know. It's hard for me to describe, just because of the fact that, like, this isn't like my atypical, like, fantasy, I guess. Like, until, like, my friend pressured me, I personally just had no interest, and I wanted to stay away from it. I avoided it like the plague, because everyone in more was talking about it and how amazing this book is. But I have to say, like, after reading through the first 3 books, which I found out they're expanding this series even further, so I just halted altogether. I personally like picking up books that, like, series that are finished, so that I don't have to wait. So, but, with the lengthy TBR that I have, it doesn't really matter at this point. But I think, like, the biggest thing that that pulled me into this series, A Court of Thorns and Roses specifically, was the world, the description that was used to describe the world, and the different classes of people, and yeah, there was some spicy scenes, but I was like, okay. I mean, I personally get annoyed with the main character, the main female character. I really think she whines, like, a lot, and I don't like her. But at the same time, too, what draws me in is that the learning about, like, the different magic systems, and learning about, like, the different push-pulls between the different regions, like, that's what's really been pulling me in. So, yeah, I definitely wish that I would have picked this one up sooner, just because of the fact that element alone is what is driving me to finish this series. So, and I know a lot of people, have difference in opinion on that. So, but, another book that, like, remained on my list, and on my shelf for the longest time, I actually had to, like, literally dust it off, was, Piranesi by Susanna Clark. And Piranesi is another title that floated around quite a bit. I kept hearing about it. I had it on my shelf. I kept putting it off, and I guess I can give you guys, like, the little blurbage on the back. But it says, Piranesi's house is no ordinary building. Its rooms are infinite, its corridors endless, its walls lined with thousands upon thousands of statues. Within the labyrinth of halls, an ocean is imprisoned. Waves thunder up staircases, rooms are flooded in an instant. But Piranesi is not afraid. He understands the tides as he understands the patterns of the labyrinth itself. He lives to explore the house. There is one other person in the house, a man called the Other, who visits Piranesi twice a week and asks for help with research into a great and secret knowledge. But as Piranesi explores, evidence emerges on another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Piranesi has always known. This, like, that blurbage alone, I usually like to try and go into books blind, but that description alone, like, absolutely, I picked that up, like, the next time. Like, as soon as I read this back, I was like, yes, I have to read this. I kept hearing about how it's more of, like, kind of like a mystery, but, it's more like to me, it like kind of read like a magical realism, if you will. Definitely fantasy, because like there's just elements of like this magical unworld, like unknown like hallway, and I'm not gonna give any spoilers away, but it was very intriguing, and it was really hard for me to put this one down, just because of the fact that that one really got me thinking, and that one really got me focused on making sure that I paid attention to the elements in the book. Like, there was different sections that would be mentioned, and the different conversations, and it kind of all just like beautifully wrapped together. I definitely gave this a 5-star review. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I did give A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas a 5-star review as well. But despite how popular both of these books are, I understand why it's hyped. I don't understand why it's hyped for the reasons that people keep mentioning, but at the same time, too, I can appreciate the writing, and I can appreciate the story that's being projected within Piranesi and A Court of Thorns and Roses. I can appreciate like the atmospheric feel of it too, just because like Piranesi is very. I just felt like I was inside of those hallways when I was reading it, which is mind-blowing to me. This is why I love reading so much, just because like you get like immersed, and that's what really draws me into reading, is like being able to escape from that reality for a time being, obviously acknowledging that it is either you know like, I mean, I personally will read nonfiction too, but I like fiction more, just because like it gives me a scope into another world and another set of eyes, and Piranesi definitely did that for me. I definitely recommend, if that has been on your TBR, to definitely pick it up, because it's really hard for me to describe without giving things away. But at the same time, too, it was really something that got me out of a reading funk. And I definitely recommend that if you're in, like, kind of like, I guess they call it a reading slump or of some sort, I would definitely recommend, like, picking up Piranesi. But I really wish that I picked that book up sooner, just because that one did sit on my shelf for quite a few years before I picked it up. Which I'm a little disappointed in myself, but at the same time too, like we live and learn. So yeah. So let's see, A Court of Thorns and Roses, Piranesi. Let's talk about some books that I read, but I really am like absolutely excited about getting rid of them. Let's see. Yeah, let's do this one. So, this is another popular title. It's called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I'm probably going to be a very unpopular opinion about this book, but I personally could not keep going with this book. It's labeled as a fiction. It talks about, elements of video games, which I thought was pretty flipping cool. The only thing that like kind of got tied in was like real world situations, and I'm like, why is this not like a contemporary fiction? Why is this being labeled as fiction? Like, when it comes to fiction, I like to read a book that doesn't talk about real world topics, at least in my opinion. And it kind of irked me a little bit, because that's something I want to read in a fiction book. Again, I'm not going to give anything away, but I personally, it just wasn't my flavor of tea, if you will. I thought it was really cool, like how they were bringing up like the different elements of video games and such, because actually one of my degrees is in video game design and development, so that's what intrigued me. But I personally couldn't get behind it. It was really hard for me to keep going with it, and just overall, like, I really was pushing myself to read this book. just because like I kept hearing really good things. Everyone kept saying, "Oh, this is great." I just personally don't think I am a Gabrielle Zevin fan, because I tried reading another one called the Storied Life of A.J. Fickery, I believe is her other book. I just couldn't get into that one either. Like, I love Frederick Backman, don't get me wrong, and that's kind of the vibe that I was getting from the title of that one, but yeah, no, just no dice. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you loved it, I'd be really curious to see what really drew you into it. But for me, like, having, like, everyday topics, about xenophobia and things like that, I would expect that more in, like, literary contemporary fiction, more so than fiction. I don't know. I'm not really sure how to describe it. It just wasn't what they were marketing as, and I was really drawn in, I guess. Maybe I was just blinded by the fact that they had the video game element. And I had this one on my shelf for quite some time, because I used to have a book of the month subscription, and I really accumulated a lot of these books through that subscription, because I would get them, but then I would put them on my shelf, and then I would get more books from like half price books or thrift books, and then they would get pushed aside. So, or like I would just be intrigued by, like the cover and the title, and, like I wouldn't touch them. But this was one that it was a complete miss for me. I just personally couldn't get into it. Another one that I got from Book of the Month Club, Book of the Month subscription, was 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. This was like kind of promoted as a thriller, based in the pandemic. I believe it was, UK or something. I think it was like Ireland or something. Yeah. Oh yeah, Dublin. Yep. So Ireland area. I thought, like, it sounded cool at the time when I picked it out, but then I was like, yeah, this is too soon to be writing books like this, because we had the COVID pandemic back in 2019, 2020, and yeah, I really don't want to live through that again. So I did get through it. It was interesting, this whole thing, but will I ever pick this book up again? No. Do I wish that I picked a different book, like, rather than spending $15 on this one? Yes, absolutely. And I think, like, a lot of the times that's the Achilles heel, if you will, like, with not really wanting to know too much information about a book before anything. Like, I personally like to just, okay, this sounds good. Look at the cover. Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's go. And I don't read summaries, and I don't read descriptions, and maybe that's what killed for these two specific books, but I personally, at least I gave them a try, is the way that I looked at it. And I'm glad I gave them a try, because it kind of introduced me to different, like, regions and styles and interests, in a way. But definitely not, like, I've realized through reading these two specifically, this is just not my cup of tea. The last one that I read, and I was really bummed out, because, like, at first when I was doing BookTube, I was creating these, like, little themed book lists, and, like, I had a different theme for, like, mermaids, and then another theme for, like, superheroes, and then another theme for, like, my top thrillers that I want to read. Well, this one was part of my, like, mermaid-esque theme, and it's called A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. I was bummed out, because I really like siren and mermaid type books, and this one, I just felt like it fell short. I just really couldn't get into it. It was really hard for me to even finish this book. I even switched to like audiobook too with this one, and I don't know, maybe it was the writing style again, or just that sometimes like it was more on, real life, struggle situations. And again, like I just I can't get behind that on a fiction. So yeah, those are the three that will be completely gone out of my shelf. There are three more books that did sit on my shelf that I absolutely am obsessed with. The first one, that I really can't believe that it took me so long to read was, Garth Stein's The Art of Racing in the Rain. And this was the most wholesome book that I think I've read in a long time. And it was actually and this doesn't really give too much away. It's pretty much in the description. It's literally a story in the eyes of a dog. And I was like really floored by I was really like kind of floored by like the style of this, because I've never seen really anything like it. It kind of reminded me of a lot of the Marley and Me like movie. I don't know if anybody remembered that one with Owen Wilson and Jen Aniston, and it just kind of went through like the whole life of Marley and all the funny things that happened and the troubles that he got into. But it really like it gave me a perspective into you know like I can't figure out like how to pinpoint it, but it like gave me like a different like perspective of like the male side of going through like a separation and like dealing with like the custody battles and stuff like that. And it was very interesting because it wasn't like your typical like reason for custody battle. So because it involved like grandparents, and I'm like, these people are slimy, and like I eek, like it just like made me really dislike the grandparents. But at the same time too, it's like, they're doing it just because they care, and they want what's best. And this dog like witnesses all of it, and it just made me realize like how much a dog, like your pet, could have influence in like seeing like your life unraveling, and how a device could potentially allow that pet to like see it through their eyes and understand it from another perspective. And I just thought it was really, really well written. And I'm like, I think this one is on par with the A Court of Thorn of Roses, because I'm pretty sure those two and Piranesi, I think all three of them were like around the same time when I purchased them. So yeah, and those were not part of my book of the month subscription. So those ones, I would love to come back and reread those specifically. I have to say The Art of Racing in the Rain definitely made me cry at the end. I normally don't get that emotional with books, but that one in particular, it was just really wholesome, and I was like really rooting for that main character throughout. So these final two books that I have were part of my Book of the Month subscription, and two very different books. One is by Meg Schaefer, the other one by Douglas Westerbeek. And I think, like, honestly, I read these kind of like, like at least a short walk through a wide world. I definitely read that shortly after reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The Wishing Game, I kind of read closely after reading, what was it? Can't remember. I think The Midnight Library, maybe? Midnight Library. It kind of yeah, I think it was around like when I had just finished reading the Midnight Library. But I mean, let's tackle one at a time. So, The Wishing Game. It was a very short book, very well written. I kind of felt like I was reading a version of like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but with books. Because it's like the main character like gets to meet the author of a series that she grew up with, and she gets to compete to get this one and only copy of the book to finalize the series altogether. They're not like the author is not publishing anything beyond that. I really felt like it was like Willy Wonka vibes. Like you have to get like an actual invitation, a golden ticket to be able to compete in this game, and I thought it was really well done. Like I personally really love this one. This one was really heartfelt as well. And I am really glad that I did get this one. It was a really quick read. I think it was only like 200 pages. I'm double checking right now. Oh yeah. Yeah, the acknowledgments are 280 and let's see here. Yeah, 278 pages. So if you're looking for something quick, fun like not Harry Potter, but fun like Willy Wonka, it was like you really had to think about some of the stages that the main character goes through in this game. And I thought it was really clever. I thought it was really cool. I gamified it, and it really allowed for the story to just continue through, and you're really rooting for her. But I really couldn't put this one down. This one I definitely recommend as well. And then the last book that I also got from the Book of the Month subscription was A Short Walk Through a Wide World. It really did remind me a lot of V. Schwab's Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I personally, hands down, would say Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is still my top favorite. But this one kind of put its own little spin on it. Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is more of like making a bargain for immortality, at least from what I remember. It's been a while since I've read that one, but A Short Walk Through a Wide World was really interesting because they introduced us to like different regions and worlds, and how this main character had to keep walking through these really dangerous areas and situations just to stay alive. And it was really, really cool. And I'm really glad that I did pick this one up. Like, I would definitely reread this one again. Just because like there's like different areas, and then she meets like all these different people, and it was a lengthy book too. I mean, to give you kind of a description, it says, a dazzling epic novel that charts the incredible adventurous life of one woman as she journeys the globe, trying to outrun a mysterious curse that will destroy her if she ever stops moving. Paris, 1885. Aubrey Tourville, a spoiled and stubborn 9-year-old girl, comes across a wooden puzzle ball on her walk home from school. She tosses it over a fence, only to find it in her backpack that evening. Days later, at the family dinner table, she starts to bleed to death. When medical treatment only makes her worse, she flees to the outskirts of the city, where she realizes that it is this very act of movement that keeps her alive. She begins her lifelong journey around the world, constantly on the run from her disease, which won't allow her to stay anywhere more than a few days. From the scorched dunes of the Kalashio Sand Sea to the snow-packed peaks of the Himalayas, from a bottomless well in a Parisian courtyard to the shelves of a spectacular underground library, we follow Aubrey as she learns to survive on her own. Along the way, she will encounter friends, enemies, and lovers. Strange beasts, wild landscapes, opulent castles, and grand inventions. But the longer she wanders, and the more of her unlikely existence she dares to share with others, the clearer it becomes that the world she travels through is not quite the same as everyone else's. Vivacious, independent, and irrepressibly curious, Aubrey Torval is an unforgotten heroine searching for meaning in a life that seems otherwise impossible. A spellbinding and inspiring story of wisdom and hope for those who yearn for novelty and home alike. A short walk through a wide world reminds us that it's not the destination, but rather the journey. No matter how long it lasts, that makes us who we are. Yeah, that alone, sign me up. So, yeah. So if you're a fan of Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, if you're a fan of even Matt Haig's The Midnight Library, I highly, highly, highly recommend A Short Walk Through a Wide Open World. So if you can guess it, I did give this one 5 stars. The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer, I also gave that 5 stars. The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein, I gave that one 5 stars. And you guessed it, Piranesi by Susanna Clark, I gave that one 5 stars. And A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, I gave that one 5 stars. So, and then surprisingly enough, like even the ones that I'm getting rid of off my shelf, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, A Song Below Water, in 56 Days, I really didn't, I think honestly the only one that I just couldn't really get in, like couldn't give more than 3 stars was, honestly, I think it was 56 Days. I'm not looking at my hardcover review list right now, but yeah, that's just my personal take. I am so glad that I am keeping track of this. I'm gonna do some bonus episodes for everybody that will be sprinkled in on Wednesdays as I can record stuff, but at least for right now, that is the end of this episode. If you have any comments about the books that I mentioned in this episode, please share. And I hope that you will join on Discord, because I would love to chat with you about books. I'm obsessed with books, so so yeah. I'm really glad that you're here. If you are still listening, I am very glad that I could do something like this, and I'm looking forward to the many episodes ahead. So, all right, take care, guys. Bye.